We are approximately 6 months into the pandemic, and we've reached an important juncture. Many students are going back to school for in-person classes. We're only a few weeks away from the start of cold and flu season. Feelings of uncertainty for many people haven't been this high since the onset of COVID in our region in mid-March, as concerns rise about a second wave of the virus. Hi everyone, I'm Trevor Sullivan of Sullivan Associates Clinical Psychology, and today I'm going to talk about how to deal with feelings of uncertainty during the COVID-19 pandemic. Before we get started, I invite you to subscribe to this channel. And if you're on YouTube, click the alert notification. That way, when we create more videos like this, you'll get notified. Feeling uncertain can be a very uncomfortable feeling, especially for people who are naturally anxious. The thought process with uncertainty usually goes something like this. If I could just somehow control everything, or at least feel certain about how things are going to turn out, then I wouldn't need to feel so anxious because everything will be okay. But life isn't like that. And with the current pandemic, life has never been so uncertain. So let's take a look at a 7-step plan you can use to help cope with feelings of uncertainty. For my first step, I want you to begin by establishing a sense of calm. Much like watching a show with a 911 call, the first step is to always get calm. Until you're calm, it's hard to be rational. And the best way to create a sense of calm is to start by calming the mind with deep breathing or mindfulness meditation. With deep breathing, it's important to take slow, deep breaths from the diaphragm instead of taking short, quick breaths from high in the chest, which is what we tend to do when we feel stressed. There are many different breathing schedules you can follow, but the critical piece is to pick a schedule that feels comfortable for you, that helps you to breathe fully without feeling labored while you do it. Remember, you're after a sense of calm and relaxation here. Personally, I like breathing on a 5-5-5 schedule. That means taking 5 seconds to breathe in, 5 seconds to hold your breath, 5 seconds to breathe out. Repeating this breathing pattern 10 times should help to lower your heart rate and blood pressure, which will help to create a greater sense of calm. If it's a bit too difficult to breathe on a 5-5-5 ratio, feel free to adjust this schedule to where it's comfortable for you. And for our second option for creating calm, let's do a quick review of mindfulness meditation. With mindfulness, you also want to take slow, deep breaths from the belly, but it's also important to address the mind. When thoughts enter your mind, the goal is to treat them non-judgmentally and to avoid engaging with your thoughts. When being mindful, it's also important to feel comfortable and have something to focus on. This could be a sight, a sound, or even a simple activity such as washing dishes or looking at treetops while walking outside. Studies show that as little as 10 minutes of mindfulness can help to create a greater sense of calm. Once you're beginning to feel calm, now's the time to move on to the second step and address thoughts and feelings of uncertainty. And when doing this, it's helpful to set a specific time to worry. The reason for a set worry time is that you want to minimize rumination, which is a tendency to worry continuously about a fear or problem. When worrying happens consistently with little interruption, it not only creates stronger feelings of stress and anxiety, there's also a greater chance of developing a problem with depression. In a 2014 study by Dr. Rachel Jacobs and colleagues, they found that ruminating is a strong risk factor for depression based on MRI brain scans of their study participants. So it's very important to set aside a set amount of time to worry. And when worrying about feelings of uncertainty, it's important to keep it relatively short, ideally 10 to 15 minutes at most. Spending too much time worrying leads to catastrophizing, which is the tendency to make problems bigger than they deserve to be. So when it's time to worry, it's important to identify which thoughts of uncertainty are bothering you the most. Once you've established a worry time, you don't want to go 1, 2, 3, worry, and just allow numerous thoughts of worry to roll in. Otherwise, it's going to feel overwhelming. Just imagine going to a Tim Hortons drive-thru just before work in the morning or after lunch, and there isn't a line. It'd be mayhem, and having all of your worries show up at once as you quickly spin from one topic to the next, becoming progressively more worried, isn't going to help. Instead, I encourage you to start by creating a list of your strongest worries that create the greatest amount of uncertainty. With the current COVID-19 pandemic, there are literally plenty of thoughts to choose from, ranging from concern about a second wave of the virus, upcoming cold and flu season, viability of in-person school, employment concerns, financial concerns, you get the idea. Once you've listed these thoughts on a piece of paper or on a device, I encourage you to move on to the next step, which is to take time to examine each thought logically to the best of your ability. For example, if there's a concern about finances, it can be helpful to do a budget and look closely at the numbers. You could explore all the options for funding or make an appointment with a financial professional to help you establish a viable plan. You could also look at history, which would show that past pandemics, such as the Spanish flu, typically run their course in approximately 2 years. This historical data could be used to provide a timeline for how long there may be financial challenges, which could be considered when making financial decisions. Essentially, when considering each thought of uncertainty, you want to ask yourself, what appears to be the most logical outcome, and how can I positively influence that outcome? And if there are situations where you're unable to influence the outcome, you could recall times in the past where you're in a difficult position and you're able to be resourceful or simply just hang in there until you eventually push through the worry and discomfort and the situation was dealt with. So whatever evidence or solutions you come up with, be sure to write them down beside your anxious thought. You're going to want them handy for future reference when worry creeps into your mind again. For my next step, I encourage you to take a few minutes during your worry time, think about all the uncertainty you already accept in your daily life. For example, if you're sitting at home right now, you're accepting all kinds of reasonable uncertainty. There's an expectation that the roof won't suddenly give way, that you won't suddenly fall through the floorboards. There are also bigger expectations that gravity will continue to do its job, that the Earth will rotate properly on its axis, and large meteorites will make an untimely visit to Earth. In reality, there's many things that are uncertain and beyond our control that we've come to accept. Fortunately, those bigger uncertainties seem to work out for us. And of course, the reason many of these things don't bother us is because we don't focus on them. We just let them be, accept we can't influence them, and simply have faith that things will work out. For my sixth step, it's important to be able to switch channels in your mind after you finish dealing with feelings of uncertainty. There's a momentum to worry that's a lot like scratching an itch. Once you get started, it's hard to stop. So I'd encourage you to do, after taking 10 to 15 minutes to worry, is take thoughts of worry and move them from the front to the side of your mind. Once you've done that, you'll need to do something interesting or have something cognitively demanding to focus on. Otherwise, you're likely just to go right back to worrying. So one helpful way to do this is to play a game of skill on a device. Or better yet, have a conversation with someone about a different topic. The focus it takes to hear what someone has to say, come up with a response, it's a great way to help change the channel in your mind. After completing all these steps, you may still have feelings of uncertainty, and that wouldn't be particularly surprising. Just because you deal with feelings of uncertainty once, it doesn't mean they're going to disappear entirely. Which leads us to our last step, which is to set another worry time in the future, where you can review your list and the logical solutions you have in place. And if you're wondering how to pick a future time, it'll depend on how pressing your feelings of uncertainty have become. For instance, if these feelings are fairly intense, you could tell yourself that in an hour, you'll spend another 10 to 15 minutes to go over your feelings or thoughts of worry that you wrote down earlier. Over time, the goal will be to stretch the amount of time in between your worry periods. So eventually, you can stretch worrying every 2 to 3 hours or possibly once a day. So to provide a quick recap, first, it's important to establish a sense of calm before you address feelings of uncertainty. 2 effective ways to do this are to set aside several minutes to focus on deep breathing or to use mindfulness meditation. Second, set aside a specific time to address your thoughts and feelings of uncertainty. This is also known as setting a worry time. Taking 10 to 15 minutes to deal with worry can help you to avoid rumination, which is a tendency to worry continuously about a fear or a problem. When worrying happens consistently with little interruption, it not only creates stronger feelings of stress and anxiety, there's also a greater chance of developing a problem with depression. For my third step, identify your strongest thoughts of uncertainty and write them down. Having this visual perspective will make it easier to deal with thoughts one at a time, instead of spinning from one anxiety-provoking thought to the next. Fourth, you want to examine each thought by using your logical mind, or said another way, to the best of your knowledge. What does the evidence tell you about how things are likely to turn out? And whenever possible, draw on your past experience if you've dealt with the same thoughts of uncertainty in the past. Once you've done this, be sure to write your answer down beside each thought of uncertainty you have, so you can review it later. For my fifth step, set aside several minutes to think of all the uncertainty in your life that you accept that isn't bothersome. There are many things that are uncertain and beyond our control that we've come to accept over time. So it's important to focus on what you can control and accept there are things you can control and have faith that these things will work out. 6, after you've taken 10 to 15 minutes to worry, it's important to switch channels in your mind so you don't continue to worry. An effective way to do this is to engage in a cognitively demanding task or have a conversation with someone about a different topic. And for my 7th and final step, set aside a time to revisit your worries in the future if they're still bothersome. The goal is to be able to stretch yourself for longer periods of time before you return to worrying. So ultimately, you worry less about thoughts of uncertainty. So I hope you found these steps helpful. If you did, I encourage you to subscribe to this channel by clicking the subscribe button below. If you ring the bell, you'll be notified the next time we release a video. And of course, feel free to like and share this video, as well as leave a comment. If you're experiencing challenges implementing these steps, please contact us at Sullivan Associates Clinical Psychology. Thank you for watching.